call up Mayor Elorza to speak.
Good morning, everyone. I want to begin by saying thank you to Sam, to Ruby, to Adeli, and to the Board of Rabbis, to the entire coalition. I was almost brought to tears listening to Sam and Ruby. I remember growing up in Providence, and I was born here in the United States, but my sister, who was a year and a half older than me, she was born in Guatemala. My parents were undocumented immigrants for their first 10 to 12 years here in the United States. I remember growing up on the second floor on Cranston Street, and we were a happy family, but I knew from a very early age what la migra meant, and to be afraid and concerned about people in suits coming and knocking on the door one day. And that fear ran across everything that we did as a family. I remember as a young child that I never was able to register for Little League Baseball or activities after school because my family was always afraid of giving out our info, not knowing where it could be used. And when I think of Sammy and Ruby, the Board of Rabbis, Amor, Fuerza Laboral, PRISM, and all the organizations and groups speaking here today, and I think about my family, thinking about families today that live through the exact same thing, and knowing that there are people out there fighting for them. So more than anything, I want to say thank you to every single person being here today. I'm touched personally, and I want you to know that on behalf of all of the residents in our city who are immigrants, who are documented, undocumented, or otherwise, you really are light for them in this moment. The violent incident that we all witnessed last week at the Wyatt Detention Center, it sheds a light on the terror that can be unleashed in our system and in our backyards if we allow it to. We cannot stay silent as this kind of violence stokes fear and anxiety in our community. And this is not an isolated incident. This is part of a strategic, this is part of a political, this is part of a comprehensive approach to stoke fear in our community, starting with our Commander-in-Chief, President Donald Trump. Now, this person is a white nationalist. Whether you agree or disagree that he is a white nationalist, what can't be disputed is the white nationalists think that he is one of them. In order to work against this, we have to channel our collective voices to state clearly that we will not tolerate the injustices taking place in our country and behind the walls of facilities and spilling into our neighborhoods. Some of the people being held at Wyatt and similar detention centers across the country are folks who are otherwise living law-abiding lives, just seeking out the American dream, were picked up simply because of their immigration status. It includes parents on their way to work, young people on the way to school, people who are deeply missed by their families at this very moment. Just last week, there were a few detainees who were released. They shared their stories of what they experienced behind closed doors. We heard of the intimidation, the lack of support, and the flat-out disregard for their basic human rights. The stories were both infuriating and heartbreaking, and were not reflective of our values. In fact, what is happening is un-American. The bottom line is that the actions of the facility staff do not align even with their own claimed mission. The primary mission of the Donald W. Wyatt Detention Facility is supposed to be, quote, to protect the public from people who pose a threat to society. Yet, it was actually one of their own who carried out an attack that endangered the innocent lives that they are supposed to protect. No one can say that the staff itself is living up to their own standards, and therefore we cannot in good conscience approve of its continued operation. We are at a critical point in our country's history. We cannot stay silent and allow this to continue to happen, or we can speak up for those who do not have a voice. Above all, we must remember that these are real stories by real people who have lived through these real nightmares. Without a doubt, in this case, silence is complicity. But we, standing side by side, are choosing to spread the truth, to stand up for our neighbors, our brothers and our sisters, and do as many have done before us, looking out for us before we can look out for ourselves, to avoid these tragedies from continuing. We cannot wait till tomorrow. We cannot wait until it's too late. When we say never again, we mean never again, and we will do all that needs to be done to ensure that today. It is for that reason that in Providence, we have made it clear that our police officers are not immigration agents, and it is why I am here to show my support for shutting down Wyatt and banning the operation of private for-profit prisons in Rhode Island.